That might send the Yankees to the World Series. Boone, a hero in Game 7.
Clemens has set a major league record for strikeouts in a game.
Derek Jeter with one of the most unbelievable plays you will ever see by a shortstop.
Red Sox fans have longed to hear it. The Boston Red Sox are world champions.
Welcome to episode 4 of Fanbase, a deep dive into the greatest rivalry in sports. My boy John Senecal is Mr. Yankee. I'm Brian Shackman. I'm not Mr. Red Sox, but I love the Red Sox and was there through this entire process. We've dedicated an entire episode, John, to Game 4 of the 2004 ALCS. Now, tell me,
changes for the Boston Red Sox.
And where were you that night?
Oh, I was watching it on TV at home.
Nice.
Yeah.
Beer in hand?
I'm sure there was a beer in hand, ready to celebrate, but boy, was I wrong.
What was the beer of choice for John Senecal in 04?
You know, I was, believe it or not, I am a big Sam Adams fan. I'm a big Sam Adams fan. Sam Adams and Miller Lite. Those are my two beers. If I'm going to drink,
you got Sam Heavy, and then you got your Miller Lite.
Rusty Wallace for the Miller Lite.
That's awesome. For me, we talked about at the end of episode 3 that I went to work and my wife went to Game 4. We're going to bring in my wife in a minute because she was at Game 4. She couldn't get anybody to go with her. I didn't want to go myself. And she ended up stumbling in reluctantly to one of the greatest sporting events there ever was. And I just wanted to point out, on top of that, I checked the attendance numbers. Fenway was below capacity for Game 4.
Was that like 18,000 people?
No, it wasn't like that. But it was like almost 1,000 less than the previous game. And
like
I think
34,000, something like that, 35.
Yeah, and the other ones were over 35 when the capacity was right around that. And so I think that ultimately, just to reset it for you, that nobody who followed the team or lived in the city thought that they had any chance. They maybe thought they had a chance to win the game, but nobody thought that meant anything because no one had ever come back from 3-0, so they didn't think they had a chance to win this series at all. And everybody jumped straight to the 9th inning, and then they jumped straight to the 12th inning. And my default response is to do the same thing. And we have a blow by blow of that 9th. But you actually think that the early innings were kind of a harbinger of what was to come.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Derek Lowe and El Duque match up, and they basically match up through 5 innings. They match each other, and the Yankees are up 2-0. And in the 5th inning, I think is important for the Red Sox. You have El Duque gets in trouble, and Torrey doesn't go to the bullpen, and he lets El Duque pitch to Ortiz, and Ortiz hits a 2-run home run. And in my opinion, I think that really changes the momentum for the Red Sox. That's their
why? Why?
They get a lead. They finally get a lead. They're up 3-2. They get a lead. It's psychological. And
but then they blow the lead.
Well, yeah, they blow the lead. They go the lead because, Matsui comes right back in the 6th inning, and that dude's unconscionable. And unfortunately, this is the last time that Matsui actually plays good for us. David Ortiz takes over Matsui's role from here out. But, I think, in my opinion, to help, as a Yankees fan, I know the 9th inning is huge, and obviously they win it in the 12th. But I see momentum for the Red Sox in this inning. I really do. And again, Torrey doesn't go to his bullpen, lefty on lefty. He goes with El Duque, who pitched great through 5. In addition, I think the top of the 6 is important, too, for the Red Sox, even though Matsui leads off with a triple to center field and knocks out Derek Lowe. There's a wild pitch by Timlin in that inning, and Bernie tries to steal third base, and Veritek makes an awesome play on the ball, and he throws it to third, and Bill Miller, who's huge in this series too, comes up with an amazing tag at third base, and he blocks the bag, and in real time, you think he's safe, but, even though there's no replay at the time, he is out, and that is a huge play for the Red Sox, because in the next at-bat, Sierra grounds the ball up the middle, and Posada, who was on base, only gets a third, and that would have been a run scorer right there.
I had never thought about it in that respect, and I understand the logic of it, but they still blew the lead, and they still went into the 9th inning. The 9th inning against the best closer in the game ends up being the best closer in the history of the game. So I to me, like, it just leads into loserdom. Like, maybe it felt good for a minute,
Well, I
10
mean,
minutes.
the crazy thing about that is, Rivera actually walks somebody. He walks Millar. When does that ever happen? He doesn't walk anybody.
You start the ninth inning. It's 4-3 Yankees. They're 3 outs away from going back to the World Series. And don't forget, they really want to win another World Series.
And the ninth inning is the stroke of midnight, which is
It's already the next day. I didn't even remember that. You said Joe Buck has a good call on that.
Just turned midnight here at Fenway Park. Off walk, and there's life for the Red Sox.
So Millar gets a walk, and if you watch the at-bat, I mean, I do like, he's a bit of a blowhard, but he was fearless, and he was not afraid in that moment, and he earned that base on balls against Rivera. And then Dave Roberts comes in, who was a late season addition, I think, from the Dodgers.
And everybody knows he's gonna steal a base. He's gonna steal. I think he was like 38 for 41 on the season in stolen bases. I mean, they basically got him to do this. This is what they got him to do.
Threw over. How many times did Rivera throw over?
I think 3 or 4 times. But and that's a lot. Knowing what he's gonna do. I mean, how many times are you gonna throw over there?
Right. So the entire stadium, the entire viewing audience, including Mariano Rivera, knows he's going to steal. He throws over 3 or 4 times, and then on the first pitch to the plate, it happened.
Miller still waiting for his first pitch. Roberts is going. Posada's throw. Roberts safe.
Great call by the umpires without instant replay.
Well, it was close.
It was very close, and in real time, you think they might have got him, but you know what? Great call by the umpire, and great stolen base. He did what he had to do, and this starts to change the Red Sox season. Did
you feel in that moment? Like, I can say as much as I want in retrospect, and I'll ask Jessica when she comes in if she felt like that. She knew then, but like, you're up 3-0, still have the lead with Mo on the mound.
No,
did you in the moment? And don't forget about retrospect.
I thought the evil empire was still going to prevail, Brian. Not a chance. Not a chance.
You weren't worried.
No, you kidding me? We got home field advantage. We're gonna go back to Yankee Stadium no matter what. Who cares if you lose this game, right? I mean, you are up 3-1 if you lose this game.
Right. You basically have 2 chances at home to win 1 game.
1 game.
Right.
1 game. I mean, and no Yankees fan in their right mind is going to sit there and tell you that they're going to lose this series. Come on, please. Anybody would. You would too if you were in this position as a Red Sox fan with the role reversed.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly, that's why I didn't want to even go to Game 4, because I didn't think it mattered even if they did win. And I think it's not about whether they won or lost; it's how they won the game. So my mind, of course, everybody's mind jumps to the 12th inning. So Bill Miller gets the single. Dave Roberts comes home to score. It's 4-4. They go extras. What do you remember about the 10th and the 11th?
Well, I mean, it's kind of, Alan Embry pitches good for the Sox. He was good in the series for him. Orlando Cabrera makes an awesome play in the 11th inning against Alex Rodriguez, which probably saves, second, not maybe a run, but a definitely interesting situation. Orlando Cabrera again is huge for you guys, huge in this whole series for you guys. But it's pretty much status quo, as far as baseball goes, and then you get to the 12th inning.
Yeah, so in the 12th inning, Paul Quantrill's on the mound, and back then, because in the 80s and 90s, I followed the Sox so closely. I knew who they had drafted. I knew they had drafted Curt Schilling. I knew they had drafted Paul Quantrill. He made the bigs. I think he really made a name for himself in Toronto. But he's on the mound, and in the back of my mind, I remember he used to be a Sox property. And this is where the emergence of David Ortiz is so huge, because Manny gets a single in the 12th, and he's on base. And later in the series, I think they're going to pitch around Manny to get to Poppy, right? I mean, they still consider Manny a bigger threat than Poppy.
Poppy already has a 2-run single in this game. He didn't do anything against Rivera in the 9th, but what a huge spot for him to be in.
Right, so Manny's on base, Poppy gets up, and game is over.
Ortiz into deep right field. Back is Sheffield. We'll see you later tonight.
So I talked about I wasn't at the game. My wife Jessica was. Now you were at the game. Who were you there with?
I had a tough time finding anyone to go with me. So I finally recruited my friend Megan. And we were at the game. We were having a ton of fun.
Did you think they actually had a chance in the game and B had a chance in the series? Be honest.
I think that there was an energy in the stadium because people knew that it was potentially the last moment of the season. But as you know, a lot of people left. There were a lot of people that left early. And so my friend Ben, who was a season ticket holder, called me from his seats, which were down by the first baseline. And he was like, 2 seats opened up in the row. Come on down with
Oh my
Megan.
God, I was just gonna ask you where were you sitting, and you go right to it. That's great.
Yeah.
And so you're down low.
Yeah, because we were grandstand, so it's a move, which was awesome. And Ben was there with his dad,
who was a longtime usher at Fenway Park.
Like the energy changed when Roberts was on, when he went into pinch run.
Well, because Brian and I were talking, everybody knew he was there to do one thing. So you knew you were going to see a stolen base. Regardless, there was going to be some action. Like something was going to happen. Something was going to happen in that moment.
Yes. And everybody had their rally caps on. Like I remember, like there was like everybody was like it was so in the moment. And when he took off and was called safe, it was like Fenway exploded. And it was like you could feel the change in energy. The fans who were still there at the game were so into it.
Did you think at that point they could win the game?
I think because like there was nothing else to hold on to. The people who were there and were staying were like the believers.
Well,
it was like,
in my opinion, I mean, that's almost good for you guys because I mean, what else do you it's all balls at that point. It's like you got nothing else, so just pour it into it. You know what I mean? So it's like
that was it. It was it. That was all you do. And I swear, like everybody, like everywhere you look, people were screaming, their caps run inside out. There's just all this emotion in the ballpark.
Do you remember Big Papi's home run?
Yeah, without a doubt, because I think like in some ways my like voice had left me at that point because there was so much screaming and cheering and energy. I don't know if it's ever been as loud as it was, maybe in those moments. And then when we won, it was like, and I remember when Papi got up to bat, it was like everyone was holding their collective breath.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, he was who bigger in the moment than in Big Papi.
Who bigger, and it was like so beautiful, and the stadium went crazy. I think that there's never been a live event that I have been a part of that was more like emotional and beautiful than that moment.
It's a memory you'll never forget.
Well, and what I wanted to point out is that, I didn't want to go to the game even if I could have, because I thought even if they won the game, they weren't going to win the series. And I think in general, if they had won a 6-3 game or 7-4, whatever, I probably still would have felt the same way, but it's the way they won that game. And so can you be as honest as possible? Did you leave that stadium thinking they could win the series?
Yes. But I don't
believe you.
I also went to the game. Like I remember feeling really sad after the
game three.
You were probably so jacked leaving that game that like you probably thought you could walk through a wall at that point. I mean, I can't even imagine. I remember going to Yankee playoff games when they walked out of there and the whole upper deck shaking, and then the feeling is unbelievable. Like. It's crazy. It's crazy. I can't imagine being at that game. I mean, even knowing that you still didn't win anything officially, just that game has got to be insane to be at.
I just remember thinking, like, I remember had that T-shirt that said,
"We believe," that one.
Yeah, we believe. And I remember being like, it just felt like in that moment that it became our moment. Like I remember Brian saying to me, like, no team has ever come back.
Said a lot
from
3-0.
From a 3-0, and I was like, well, this year's different.
Well, they're gonna do it, and we're gonna talk about it in the next episode, right?
Yeah.
So thank you, honey. I appreciate it. The interesting thing about Jess, and I will wrap things up, is that I worked the morning show at the NBC station in Connecticut, and I would go to bed at 8:30, 9 o'clock. And especially when we had a newborn and stuff,
Brian and Keisha.
Yeah,
First side, your
on
TV.
Bob's weather on the ones.
Woo.
So,
Dirty 30.
but she had nothing to do at night but correct papers from watching the Red Sox. And she grew up, her dad was a Yankee fan, actually. It's funny.
I worked mornings for many years at NBC, and it's tough to watch baseball on that shift. And I'm not talking about West Coast baseball. I'm talking
Right.
about general
Right.
7:00 games. And then you get to the playoffs, and the playoffs start at that time. They were starting at like 8:30, 8:45 at night, some of those games. And you're clicking into, I mean, we'll get to it. The later games, they go to 12 innings, and they're going 5 hours games. I mean, Jesus, you're coming into 1:30 in the morning. We're going to work.
She ended up watching every single game every single night. She knew more about the Red Sox in 2004 than I did. And so when she talks about it, like, she was fully invested. And I just, it was incredible to watch her reactions to it, because she had never really been a huge Red Sox fan before that. So but I just thought it'd be fun to bring her in. And so, any final words before we move on to episode 5, which will be games 5, 6, and 7?
Other than that, you're going to be in for one heck of a ride, man, if you're a Red Sox fan, and you're going to witness sports history. And we're going to talk about it on the next episode. But for now, this is episode 4 of Fanbase, a deep dive into the greatest rivalry in sports. You can catch us on Apple and Spotify and online. I'm John Senecal, and this is Brian Shackman. We'll see you next time.